Welcome to NCCX race number 2. This is in Raleigh at Lions Park. It's a pretty fun race. We've got a cool course, lots of hitters here. Nate Morse on the front right now, getting the first turn. Eli on my inside of the corner, also on the Velocious team. And then right behind me is Tristan Cowie, former pro. Tristan has been ripping it up in the NCCX League this year, NCCX Series this year. It's been fun. He's been doing pretty well, so he's definitely one to contend with. Nate always gets strong starts too, and he's in much better shape this year, so his rest of the race is also pretty insane. So got to watch out for these two guys. They're much more technically skilled than I am, so I am contesting pretty difficult field here. Eli is also running real well right now. Eli takes it into these next few turns on this first lap here, and this turn in particular is a little bit loose, which you can see he did not make it through at that speed. The rest of the race we were all pretty sure to take that at a much lower speed than what he did there. You can see behind me almost everybody's all still together on this first lap. Tristan in third. Eli got back up real quick and was already back onto the wheel. Nate right on my wheel. And we are doing some turns in grass, as is the nature with cyclocross. Got a pack here. Lots of racers this year, NCCX. And plenty of turns. I do like this course. Not too many U-turns, which can plague a lot of cross courses, but just enough features to make it technically challenging, and also you can open up in some places as far as power goes, which usually helps me a lot, especially with cross-oriented riders. Plenty of curb hops there. You can see we're like jumping in between parking lots, which is a pretty fun way to race. This corner here have had guys slide out. Actually, Eli's brother Luke slid out in that corner. It's pretty loose, kind of gravel. You can see a bunch of people have been breaking tape for the whole day there. You go up and down right next to this BMX course, and yeah, it's kind of soft, but super fun corners. I chose to duck down underneath the trees there on that. Winding out a little bit, but not going too hard. Kind of trying to stay in control. A lot of these turns I'm taking like wrong on this first lap, which I figure out once Nate and Tristan come around me, and here in particular they were going a lot wider and then cutting in much later than I did just then, and then you get a lot more exit speed, which I learned. So on those narrow corner exits with a wide entry, maybe use the course. This turn 2, this U-turn here, was pretty tricky. There's a lot of roots. You can see I just hit one there and got jostled around a little bit, and then continued on up, and next to this field, next to the fence here, there's a little chicane, which is kind of fun. A little flick left, flick right, and then up into one of the semi-challenging parts of the course, which is this little U-turn. You could dive down into this like little embankment like Nate did, but right here I actually got squeezed into the fence, and it ripped my jersey pretty good. It looked like it was worse than it was, but it like ripped my heart rate strap too. There was a screw sticking out on the fence, and I hit it just perfectly to not get hurt, but to destroy my skin suit. Luckily I have a sewing machine, so got it fixed back up for the rest of the year. Back into the race. This is still lap 1. We're following Nate now after his little pass maneuver. Some more weird turns in a ditch on some grass. Cyclocross is goofy. Continue on through more of a power section of the course. You can put down some power here for quite a while. I liked this section a lot. Into barriers. Nate here is pretty notorious for hopping barriers, so he's definitely planning on doing it at some point during the race. And here he goes, first lap, hopping the barriers. I run him. We still have a group of 4 and Nate jumps back in front. They're big, tall barriers with not a lot of space in between, so it was almost faster to ride them, but in that particular instance, it was about the same as running them. I did change where I was remounting throughout the race, choosing to remount before the corner. We had talked with a few of the guys who had raced before, and they were like running around the corner and then remounting, but in our race, that was not the fastest thing. Now we're coming up to probably the most technical part of the course. Nate and I had chatted about that little section, like the off camber, and I had passed him in pre-ride and said maybe that's not a great place to pass, but coming through these trees, step off of another curb, and then there is this barrier, and Nate makes it up. Good jump. Was a lot faster. So I had only made it one time in practice, but saw him do it right there, and we had a little more speed than I had been practicing, so that was like the second time I had made it up that jump and up the hill, and now the precedent is set that we're gonna keep doing that for the rest of the race, which I am not great at. I was losing a lot of momentum jumping up and over that, and then trying to get up the hill without much more momentum at all was pretty difficult, and I paid for it. Come around through this little tree section, super loose, very mulchy. Nate's still leaning it out pretty well. Off-camera section, plenty of roots here too. Really fun course with a lot of sectors. The laps are like around 7 minutes. I think we're doing 7-minute laps for a lot of it. And here we are still mostly together. We've got Eli in the group, me, Nate, Tristan. I think we've got one more rider with us coming through after this first lap. The rest of everybody else must have had some issues somewhere, but yeah, my heart strap again was torn up. You can see Tristan dive in the corner there, and yeah, we continue on, come back to the barrier this next lap, and I did not make it up that time. I made it over it and then totally lost momentum, so dismounted to start running. Eli right next to me lost some speed because of my little dismount maneuver, but we weren't too far off the back of them. Was spending some energy on that, and then a little later that lap, Nate was like losing his rear a little bit, which it looked like a flat. We weren't really sure if it was or not, but he had a lot of flats this year, so chances are it was indeed a flat tire, and it caused him to have to dismount and run up that same lap. Tristan got a little gap on us here. This is like lap 2, and Tristan's pulling a gap out. You can see we come back through the start finish right at the end of that lap, and Tristan's got a little gap on me. It took me like almost the entire lap to pull it back. He was taking some different lines. I could see him take that line there, so I decided to swing wide, and it was just kind of like testing how far I could push on this course. Every year I kind of have to relearn how to race a cross bike because it is quite different from road. Finally caught back up to him on the first barrier section, but I'm gassed at this point, and Tristan just starts kind of laying down power, taking all the corners consistently, and this section in particular, he gets a lot of speed into it, jumps over it, and maintains speed while he jumps up the hill. You can see he pulled out a pretty good gap on me there, and then just kept winding it out. I'm doing like 750, 800 watts, trying to stay on his wheel, and he maintained the gap. So that was pretty intense, and yeah, he just kept pulling out time on me. I was spending a lot of energy here trying to catch up with him. A little bit later, it was like a big gap, so I'd take a mint Oreo, probably one of my favorite hand-ups, because they are surprisingly vegan, and they're not too difficult to get down. Continuing on, later that lap, I've got one cookie down. I get to the beer section, and they are also handing out cookies, but I didn't want more cookies, so I asked for a beer, and I continued on. I was catching Tristan a little bit at this point. Like, I was learning the course, getting a little more smooth with it, and then decided to take a little Miller Lite hand up. Just a sip or two. Call it a quarter beer. Get a little motivation back. Was starting to get a little better at getting up the hill here. You can see I still was just like bogging down really hard. Tristan is getting closer. I think he reeled out maybe 15 seconds at a certain point, and then with like a lap, 2 laps to go, you can see we're 2.5 minutes to go. I am getting super close. You can see him right there. That's maybe 7 seconds. So I started pulling back. Plenty of time on him. You can see him up in the distance there, going around that turn. So I've got to get my speed a little bit higher on this top section. We're getting real close to the finish, and I'm within sight. Going to catch him pretty quickly. I started going to the right side that Tristan was going on, and just hit it as hard as I could to get some speed going. He's right there around the corner. I think he had let up just a little bit. He doesn't quite have the like full hour fitness yet at this point during the year. Just kind of riding into fitness, and my fitness is decreasing, but at this point I had pretty good fitness. I decided not to take another Oreo up, being the last 40 seconds of the race, and I was pretty close to him. Had to slow down a little too much in that corner, and then this straight I am just going to put down as much power as I possibly can while keeping both tires on the ground, doing like 600-700 watts for the last little part into the finish stretch, and get onto the pavement. I can see him still, but it is just far enough away. I took that corner real wide too. Almost hit one of those cones. He's just far enough away that he secures the win in NCCX number 2. So for him, that is 1 win, and for me, that is 1 win because I won the first one. Anyway, super fun race. Thanks for watching. See ya.